420, 420, for 20 long years. I smoked lots of reefer, drank lots of beer. Every day at 420, we're gonna settle the score. And for 20 long years, it's been 20 past 4. Welcome to 420 Live. I'm Jeff Kravitz. It's Thursday. We're ready for another edition of our long-standing show, coming into episode, I think, 230 today, if I can count correctly. Welcome, everybody. I hope you guys are all well. Everybody out there, taking care of yourselves, taking care of those around you, and ready for another adventure down the rabbit hole today. Susan Soares is our guest. She is the State of Cannabis Queen. I met her at doing the Cannabis Green Rooms for the Coachella Music Festival. We met 4 or 5 years ago, I think it's been already. And Susan was always nice enough to take care of us down there at Coachella. And we're looking forward to having her on the show. She's going to be here in just a second. But, you know, yesterday we had an amazing show talking about the festivals, talking about Outside Lands with our friends Alan Scott and Rick Farman. Great reaction from everybody out there. Everybody really seemed to love the show and love talking about hearing what these guys are planning and what the plan is. I saw all the hubbub about, no social distancing, no caps on attendance, so everybody's worried out there. Everybody has their worry. They've got under our skin. They're getting to us. They're making us worried about things. But do we need to worry? Everybody vaccinated. Lots of talk about the vaccination passports out there. That's the big subject. We touched on that a little bit yesterday. Your vaccination passport. Would you get a passport to tell everybody you're vaccinated? Do you think it's a little overreach? Is that a little bit of government overreach right there? Once we're at herd community, it's going to be up to everybody to take care of themselves. I think we're going to get there sooner rather than later. They said Los Angeles is going to be at herd community by this July. So that means that we're back in business this summer. LA is going to be rip roaring. You feel the energy. You can feel the change coming. I hear it in the conversations I'm having on the phone every day as we get closer in and things start heating up and events start coming back, even socially distanced events. It's nice to have somewhere to go, and people are out. People are in the restaurants. People are going out, walking around, getting fresh air. It's nice to see life coming back. It feels like we were kind of locked up in the gulag for the past year in this holding pattern, waiting for someone to take control. And, I've got, believe it or not, a lot of Trump-loving friends out there, and it's just really hard for me, them to understand what the good Biden's doing. But I think it's kind of hard to even harder to wrap your head around what mess we'd be in if Trump was still in charge. So, we don't like to get political here. I've kind of put that stuff away since we've moved past the election and let everybody do their jobs. When it comes to pontificating politically, not really my area. I will speak up. I got my vote shirt on today, my head count. Where is it? There it is, head count. Got my head count shirt on today because the vote is under a lot of pressure. They're trying to pass laws all over the United States to keep it down. What did I see today in Texas? They want to reduce the amount of drop boxes they have. And we already know what happened in Georgia. Now Delta Airlines and Coca-Cola is chirping up, and everybody's waiting for Hollywood to chirp up, because once Hollywood says we're not going to be filming until you stop these stupid laws, because Georgia makes a lot of money. Everybody makes a lot of money on Hollywood. The taxes in California to do production are through the roof. So everybody's moved to places like Vancouver, Washington, or even Vancouver, Canada. Really want to save some money. And North Carolina, South Carolina, both doing a lot of filming. Atlanta gets a lot of filming. New Orleans got a lot of filming because all these places don't tax their industry as much as California does. Overtaxation is part of the reason that we're having such a big problem with the cannabis business here, where many more people are using the black market or the legacy market than they are the legitimate market. I happen to be in MedMed just this afternoon. I was blown away by the amount of products they have on those shelves. How many different pre-rolls, how many different kinds of bud, how many different kinds of edible. It's like you can't even choose anymore. You're going in or you walk around for a half an hour just trying to figure out what overpriced, overtaxed piece you want. But, our guest, Susan Soares, she is an expert in this. So we're going to bring her in. Hello, Susan. How are you?
Hi.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you too. How's it going?
It's going good. I'm stabilized. How are you? How are you feeling these days?
Oh man, so you see my little dog Cutie?
Yeah, I just saw the dog in the background.
I actually inherited her from my dad. So I have been under lockdown for a year, more than a year, isolated by myself, and I am what I like to call V2 plus 14, which means I've had both vaccines plus at least 14 days. So I feel pretty good to go. I went to San Francisco to see my daughter last week, and I'm going to San Diego this weekend to see my grandkids, who I have not seen for over a year. There's a new grandbaby that's 4 weeks old. Haven't seen my grandbaby, and I get to see them this weekend.
So a big sense of relief in your life to be able to get back.
Man, oh man. Yeah, and I heard you talking about the passports. I had a video appointment with my doctor today, and I said, what about these passport things? And this is Kaiser, and he wasn't really sure. He was like, well, didn't you get a card when you got the vaccine? And I said, yeah, but I got the first one and they filled it out and they gave it to me. And I got the second one and they filled it out and they gave it to me. And the nurse said, oh, by the way, you don't have your name or your birthday on your card. You need to put that on your card. And I was like, okay, I could have just duplicated these and sold them to people. And it doesn't seem like, as an event producer, it doesn't seem like, if we have to be really strict, we have high profile people, it doesn't seem like that's good enough just to show your shot card.
Well, I think supposedly you're in some big system now, right?
Are we though? I've never.
A friend of mine volunteered giving the shots, and one of his jobs was to enter everybody into the system after they had gotten their inoculation. So they are tracking you, and they know you have had your shots, and you are in some kind of database. Whether that database can be accessed by different businesses that want to sell you concert tickets, or whether you can use that information to put into an app, or if it goes into an app that you show some little thing that you've been vaccinated. It's a mess. I mean, as weed smokers, we don't like being tracked ever.
I do.
You really like the Big Brother overview that they would have if they have this kind of thing, because isn't it the beginning? Like, that's what everybody's talking about when it comes to civil rights, that you're just chipping away at your civil rights as you give the government more information. Like, you have to have this, and you have to have this vaccine, and you have to have these things, So
well, I've traveled abroad before where we had to get certain vaccines before we were allowed to go into particular countries. So I don't know. My dad was in the Navy for 23 years and they have to get vaccinated.
Right. But yes, different people have to be vaccinated, but now you're telling everybody to be vaccinated and you can't do a certain thing unless you're vaccinated. And if we get the herd immunity and the numbers go down, is it still going to be a requirement for people who haven't got vaccinated to get vaccinated? Are they? There's so many questions, I don't think that there's one answer for it either. So it's a discussion.
Well, yeah, maybe blockchain would help with this, where there could be assurances that we knew the truth, but there was still anonymity. I don't know. I just don't ever want to go through this again.
No, the lockdown part, I think that's kind of finished now.
Hopefully they're saying there's definitely more pandemics on the way.
Right. Yes, there's more pandemics on the way, but I think how we deal with them and how we attack them is going to be completely different than the last time. Last time we had a government that wasn't really trying to wasn't trying to fix anything. A year ago.
Well, who knows what we'll have 4 years from now?
No, it's true. It's true. This is going to be a constant battle in our life, and maybe not putting our health stuff in the hands of Americans and maybe moving out of the country and going somewhere else. I don't know. I've never thought about leaving the country before, but over the past year, I've thought about every scenario.
Well, I would be happy if we turned it to Cannabis Rica instead of Costa Rica, and all the cannabis people moved down there. I'd go.
Yeah. I love the tropics. I'd go. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up getting into the cannabis field.
Okay, thank you. So as I mentioned, I was raised in a military family, And my parents were also Mormon and quite racist, very strict, and, taught to observe the word of wisdom, which meant that you couldn't smoke tobacco or drink alcohol, or it was really confusing because the word of wisdom says you can't have hot drink, but we could have hot chocolate and this postum coffee substitute thing, but not coffee or tea, but some tea. And we could drink a Coke once in a while, but not really. I don't know. It was really confusing. But I was in my 30s and I had 3 kids, and these teenage kids were smoking out of a pipe across the street. And I called the cops and I was like, hey, these kids are smoking drugs. You better come and arrest these kids because they're smoking drugs. And the dispatcher said, well, is it crack or is it weed? And I said, it's drugs. Come and get them. And I was shocked that the cops didn't come and arrest these kids. And fast forward about 2 years later, I was serving as Young Women's president, and we were playing broom hockey in this gym, and I was getting ready to score my 3rd goal, and this kid tripped me while I was running as fast as I could, and I slammed my head into this cinder block wall, and I blacked out. I broke my eardrum, got a concussion, and I ended up with a migraine headache that lasted 2 years.
Ooh.
And I couldn't, my Mormon doctor just kept giving me pharmaceuticals, and I went to chiropractors and everything you could imagine. And I was going through a divorce 2 years later, and just ready to, if I didn't have my children, I wouldn't have had the will to live, because it was not 1 minute of one day for 2 years did I not have this migraine. And so I was gardening with a neighbor of mine, and she was growing some cannabis in her garden, and I didn't even know what it was. And I asked her about it, and she said, that's marijuana, and it might actually help your headache, your migraine. And so I thought, if I try this and it works and I start using it, I'm going to lose my family. I'm going to lose my entire community, but at least I'll be alive for my children. And I tried it, and 6 weeks in, my migraine was gone, never to return. And I committed myself to changing people's minds once I got my kids raised, to dedicating myself to changing people's minds that thought the way I did. And so that's where my activism came from. And I've just been an advocate for the plant ever since.
Yeah, and your organization, when I first met you, was CARE instead of DARE. They had the shirts that said DARE that the police released, and you took the same exact design, but instead of DARE, you had CARE on there. And what did CARE stand for?
Cannabis Awareness, Research, and Events. And it was funny because when I first came up with that, I launched at the Emerald Cup, and I had my big banner behind me. And this guy was standing there staring at my booth, and he just was standing there. And I said, hey, can I help you? And he said, I'm a patent and trademark attorney, and that is brilliant. If DARE ever wants to sue you, please, here's my card. I will represent you for free. You kind of want to hope that they do, kind of be in their face, because you're not trying to divert funds that would normally go to them because you've got a marijuana leaf in your logo. It'd actually be really good publicity.
Well, DARE was Reagan, wasn't it? Was it Reagan that started DARE? Was that?
I think it was Nancy Reagan, yes. Just say no.
Just say no. I found that incredibly rude. I mean, she should have said, just say no, thank you.
It is rude.
Just say no. I mean, that's not polite.
No. But it's like, you tell a teenager that, you're like, Mom, these kids want me to do drugs. What should I do? And you say, oh, just say no. Like, that's going to work. It's like, come on, give the kid, if you don't want them to do drugs, give them some tools.
Yeah, because all your friends will say is why. Why don't you?
Exactly.
You should
No.
try this. And you're
Just no.
so how did you make the leap from being an activist to getting involved? Because when I met you, you were basically you had like an artist lounge. It was off site because you couldn't officially do this at Coachella, but you would rent a beautiful house there in Indio, and people would stop by on their way into Coachella. And there are many gift houses exactly like this, except yours was a cannabis oasis with plants and cooking. That was cannabis cooking, and with just everything, a dab rig set up for everybody to have a dab. I mean, it was more to integrate the product and show people different products that were coming in, right?
Yeah, well, it was an FU to Coachella first and foremost, and it was a way to spread awareness as quickly as possible because the artists have millions of fans. And the reason I started doing it was because it was 2015 or 2014. And I was asking all of my cannabis friends, what are you doing for 420? And they all said, we're going to go to High Times in Denver. And by this time I was kind of like over High Times. And I was like, that just doesn't make any sense. Why are we going to Denver? Southern California is the mecca of cannabis consumerism. We should be here for 420. So I started looking around at different, because everyone was still going to go do that. So I started looking at things that were going on during 420 that I could just dovetail on. And I found Coachella. I had never been, but I started looking at the FAQs, and one of them was, I'm a medical marijuana patient and I medicate daily. Cool? ? And the answer was, no, bro, your medical card is not valid here. And bro was a hyperlink to the Guerrilla Union Smokeout Festival in San Bernardino that was going on that weekend. And I was like, wait, they don't want medical marijuana patients at Coachella, and they're saying you belong over here. And I was like, yeah, fuck you, Coachella. I'm going to rent a big mansion, and I'm going to invite all of your artists, and I'm going to give them bags full of cannabis.
Well, I don't think the thing is that people at Golden Voice don't get high, because I know quite a few of them at AEG, and they love cannabis. The problem lies in the lawyers. And
the problem lies in Philip Anschutz.
It's what?
It's Philip Anschutz.
Well, he's anti-marijuana also.
He's anti-everything, and he creates the policy. I've had I can't think of her name right now, but the lady that does brand sponsorships for Coachella and AEG, and she told me that she could go to Anschutz with a multi-billion-dollar deal. And if it had anything to do with cannabis, he would turn it down. He doesn't care how much money in the world it is.
Right.
That's how much he dislikes cannabis.
Well, yes. Hey, listen, these people in power have the ability to control that dialogue. He's a very rich and powerful guy, and he's a very conservative guy, and that's what he decides to do. I mean, the beautiful thing is, in America, we can all decide what we want to do. And one thing about Coachella, you smell some great bud out there, so it's not like they're controlling anybody smoking. Everybody's smoking. But they will confiscate if they find it in your bag at the door.
Yeah, even if you're right, even though it's legal, and the thing is that the FAQs didn't mention any other drug. I shouldn't say that, because I don't think cannabis is a drug. It's a beautiful plant. But don't mention anything else, just cannabis.
Well, because it's also the smoking ordinances. Like, that's one of the things that we have with cannabis now, we're trying to open up the lounges and the consumption lounges, or even trying to sell it in a venue, is that people smoke it and you're not allowed to. We did all these anti-smoking campaigns for years.
You nailed it, Jeff. That is a big problem, and we need to raise a bunch of money and do some research and prove that. I think we know, as longtime consumers, and all of our friends are longtime consumers, we know that there's a huge difference between cannabis smoke and cigarette smoke. Gigantic difference. I mean, UCLA did that study, and then the University of New York and China and Israel did a backup study, and there was thousands of people, and they studied people that just smoked cigarettes people that just smoked cannabis and people that smoked cigarettes and cannabis. And the lung cancer rates for people that just smoke cannabis was very, 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 very small. And the group that smoked cannabis and cigarettes was significantly smaller than the group that smoked cigarettes alone. So they concluded that the cannabis was helping people that smoked cigarettes from getting lung cancer.
Yes, I have heard that about cigarettes, that there are things in it that kind of actually scrub your lungs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so we need, you know, I mean, if those studies aren't good enough, then we need another study, or we need a PR campaign to make sure.
Or just a nice outdoor area attached to every venue where you can go outside. That's very close to where you want to be. Just like if you would smoke a cigarette, they have smoking. I don't mind stepping outside to have a puff and then coming back into the music or whatever. I don't really think it's necessary to smoke in a space because everybody has different tolerances. Not everybody likes the smell. It does change the entire complexity of the room. Believe me, I've lit up many times indoors too, but it's just that I get where people would have a problem with it, and where you have to make allowances for everybody when you're opening up a business, not just for the cannabis smokers. So you want to have a place where they can go, and also a place where they can shop right there at the bar. You know, I think adding the ability to buy cannabis everywhere, like you buy tobacco or buy anything else, is also a big step too.
Yeah, I've been putting this idea out there. Maybe we can start it today and raise $1 million. I want to start a company that's like Hot Box Co., where we make these, like, think of a phone booth for 4 people, you know, and you just put that in the middle of a bar. You put that in the middle of a whatever, you know, they could be mobile for my event, the State of Cannabis. We could have several of these hot boxes around where you go inside, shut the door, smoke your cannabis, scrubs the air, smoke's all gone.
Well, they definitely have the filtration systems, and I've been in something similar traveling across Europe, where they have these little rooms that are like phone booths that they're smoking, and they're just in the middle of the place with great ventilation systems. It's not a bad idea, even if you have part of the room that's like that, where like 10 people go in at a time and puff. It would still be.
Like Lowell's Cafe in West Hollywood had that when they were open for the Hot Minute. Did you go there?
No, I didn't go in the Hot Minute. You went. What did you think?
Lame.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I smoke cannabis all the time when I go to eat, you know,
right.
Usually on my way to the restaurant. So by the time I get there, I'm hungry. I don't really need to smoke in the middle of dinner. You know, it's not really like a thing where I'm like, oh, I got to light up in between bites. I'm just like, let's eat. And then after I'm done, I'm ready to smoke again. So I like it on either side, but to go running to some place to spend overpriced money on weed, and it did not last, right? It didn't even make it a year, I think.
Well, it wasn't all their fault. It was pre-COVID, and that. Well, no, they had time. The problem was they built in this fake urgency, like we are going to be so busy that you can spend 45 minutes at your table and that's it. So you're like, you sit down and you're like, okay, where's the menu? We can only sit at this table for 45 minutes. You don't get a menu. It wasn't, we were there for 45 minutes and we still didn't have a menu to order weed. We had to flag down a waitress to get some weed. And then they give us these menus, and we're, you know, it was like another 20 before they came back, and we're like, okay, we'll take this and this and this. And they're like, oh, we don't have that. And we don't have that either, or that. And we're like, well, what the hell do you have? You know? So it was the customer service was what I think ruined it. The food was horrible, but they did have these big fans above you that sucked up all the smoke. Right.
So it's not bothering anybody. Well, I mean, you're right. Smoke. Yeah, COVID's kind of crushed our dreams of having the places. My friend Shirley Halpern, the author of Pot Culture, says that they're still hoping to reopen that place, and that she went several times and had a blast. But Shirley, you have a good time everywhere. And I'm sure I'd have a good time there. I just never made it over there. And, you know, food and pot, I love them, but I just don't see that, oh, I need a hit of this and then eat this. I mean, I would have to go by a chef.
Just replace the cannabis with alcohol. It would be a blast. Like while you're sitting there waiting for your food, the food needs to be good. The service needs to be good. You can't just have cannabis and expect the place to be a hit and have lousy food and lousy service.
Right.
If they had nailed those other two things, I'd be there every week.
Right. You want to, because you like, it's nice to sit back and relax and sit around a table and smoke with everybody before and after the meal. You know, exactly. It would add a different aspect to it. And I'm sure it's going to happen eventually. I mean, there's vapes now. There's all different ways we can smoke inside. You know, what's your take on our cannabis industry in California right now?
You really want to go there?
Yeah, I want to hear about the state of cannabis. I think everybody else does too. What do you think?
Oh my God. Well, it is a pot mess. It's been a pot mess for a long time. You know, I'm sorry that I didn't get more involved. After I saw the language of Prop 64 and I realized that they were funded and it was going to happen regardless, I just stepped away and just said, like, I'm not going to endorse this, but I'm not going to talk shit about it because we had the presidential election. And, you know, if I was thinking if Prop 64 gets on the ballot and also we're trying to not have Donald Trump be our president, that's going to be a mess. So I'm just going to leave it alone. And I wouldn't change what I did, but I think I would have been a lot more vocal before the language was ever even written. I mean, I was a bit, but not enough.
So what are your top issues with the bill?
Well, my top issue is that the people that put it together, I don't know what they were thinking. They thought that they had to really consider what the polls were saying. And, you know, well, this issue isn't polling well. And, you know, we have to collect X amount of taxes because that's what's polling well. And I kept saying, bullshit, man. The voters don't read your 950 pages of language. They're not reading it. And the voters didn't get what they voted for. They didn't vote for this mess. They didn't vote for overtaxation. They didn't vote for only
overtaxed and overpriced.
Well, and they didn't vote for only 900 stores in the whole freaking state. They didn't vote for that. They thought there would be stores everywhere. You know, they voted for legalizing.
Well, a lot of communities are able to opt out of having shops.
I know, and the voters didn't vote for that. When they voted for Prop 64, they thought there would be a weed store around the corner. They didn't read it.
There's nothing in the law that forces these governments to put a cannabis shop in their municipality.
No, but the fact that they could opt out, and then we also had that oopsie moment with the March 3rd deadline that with the MTSRA, whatever the medical one that was before that. So all of the cities thought that they had to have an ordinance in place in a matter of like 3 months or just do a ban. So all the cities were like, we can't figure this stuff out. You know, we're going to just ban it. So over 3/4 of the state, the cities banned it. And once government puts a line in the sand, it's very hard to move. That's why when you decide on a tax rate, it's really hard to go back down. So you want to be really careful when you set a tax rate or you set a policy, because to go back and change it is very hard.
Yeah, well, they're blowing out the legal market with their overtaxation.
They're blowing out the traditional market.
Well, yeah, well, you mean the legacy? No,
the traditional market is blowing them out.
Yeah, the traditional, of course, because who wants to spend all over? If you're if you're a serious weed consumer, like if you smoke 1 gram to 2 grams a day, you're not going to want to go in the shop and spend $15 to $25 a gram for cannabis. It's just like not economically feasible unless you're Jeff Bezos and you don't really care. You know, you're going to go in there. You know, I'm conscious, maybe because I'm a half Jew or whatever it is, but I'm always conscious with my money, and especially when it comes to cannabis, I don't want to be spending $600, $700 an ounce. You know, when I went into MedMen today, they had Ace for $65, and that was great 10 or 15 years ago when you really wanted the delicious kind, and that was the price. But on the black market, but now it's a little bit different story out there. You have a lot of options.
Yeah, and hopefully people are growing in their backyards. That's my dream, is to get everybody growing their own cannabis in their backyards, or collectively doing it per neighborhood. Did I tell you what I did on 420 last year?
Oh,
So I was really depressed because I couldn't do my Coachella event, and I had been. Do you know what nextdoor.com is?
yeah, of course.
So I had been wanting to come out of the green closet on Nextdoor forever. And my friends and family and attorneys were like, that is a really bad idea. Don't do that, because they know where you live. They know you're single, you're living alone, and you're growing weed in your backyard. Don't do that. But I was so depressed. So I was like, no, screw that. I am going to come out of the green closet on 420 on Nextdoor. So I did a post. The post was, free pot brownies, anyone? Question mark. And I got, that thread blew up. I had so many neighbors, because they knew they could trust me because I'm a neighbor, right?
Right.
And they knew where I lived. So I got so many messages. A lot of them just, posted it publicly. I got a lot of private DMs. And I had neighbors coming by. I put a couple of, they would say, I want 4 brownies or whatever. And I would put it in a baggie and put their name on it and put it on a table on my front porch. And all day long, I had neighbors coming by, picking up baggies and waving at me through the window. And I swear, Jeff, at least half of them had never had cannabis before, but the pandemic was just starting and they were freaking out and they knew they could trust me. So they came and they picked up their brownies. And then I had people contact me after and say, hey, is it legal to grow? And I'm like, yeah, I'll give you some clones or some seeds or whatever. And I turned on all these neighbors to growing cannabis in their backyards.
That's a beautiful thing. Always sharing. Talk a little bit about your book. What's Grandma growing? Because we're obviously talking about the farm.
I should have had a copy handy. So this was 2018. We had legalized, 2017, we'd already legalized cannabis. When did Prop 64 pass?
Well, yeah, I believe it was in the past 3 years. Yes.
So we had Prop 64 had passed. Well, no, it was 2018. No, right. It was 2016 when Trump was elected. But the regulations kicked in 2018. So we had 2 years of already Prop 64 was legal. And all through my activism, I was always bothered by when people said, what about the children? And I'm like, what do you mean, what about the children? What about the children? Talk to your children. Okay. What about alcohol? What about your oxy in your medicine cabinet that's not locked up? What about that? But so we had Prop 64 had passed for at least a year and a half. And Santa Barbara was struggling with, putting retail and just licensing cannabis in general in Santa Barbara. And the argument was, what about the children? All these moms were coming, they were organized and they were at every single city council meeting, and they were, it would look really bad. And I was like, what the hell? This is still a thing? I'm going to have to write a book, a children's book, a picture book, a fun book, and give grownups a tool to talk to their kids about cannabis because they can't seem to figure out how to do it. So I raised a little bit of money. I did a lot of research. I realized that as a first-time author, I wasn't, especially talking about cannabis and kids. I mean, Facebook was like, what are you doing? You can't have a book about cannabis and kids. And so I knew that it was gonna, kind of be a money suck, but it had to be done. So I did it. I wrote a book, and
Jimmy Fallon had it on his show.
Jimmy Fallon made fun of it.
But it's good because it sells copies, right? It doesn't matter.
No, it didn't sell copies.
It didn't.
It didn't sell copies. It's somebody sent me a text first thing in the morning. It had been on the night before, and it was like, he was like, "Hey, good job getting on the Tonight Show." And I said, "What are you talking about?" So I looked at it online and saw and watched it, and I was mad. I was instantly furious because I was like, "Why is Jimmy Fallon? Why are you pushing this stigma that this is 2019 at this point, and you're still stigmatizing cannabis?" He just was making fun of it, and my Amazon link got hit so hard that it screwed up Amazon's algorithm. And what was coming up was, "This book is currently unavailable, and we don't know when or if it will be available again." And that was up on their site for 3 weeks.
Oh, so that killed your sales.
That's a window. That's a big window.
Yeah. That's when everybody was hammering it to get a copy.
Yeah, and I don't wait for stuff on Amazon. The whole reason I shop on Amazon is because why is it not at my door right now?
Is it on your State of Cannabis website? You still have the book up?
Yep,
okay.
It is.
Susan's website, thestateofcannabis.org down there. Check it out. You want to talk a little bit about the State of Cannabis Clubhouse? You're big on Clubhouse. You really took to that like a fish in water. Congratulations. How do you like that format?
I love Clubhouse. Last year I spent so much time on Zoom. I jumped right into Zoom. I had never even been to a virtual meeting, and I did two-day conferences, 8 hours a day, and I did another 48 interviews and things. And I didn't understand. I was surprised how many people were reluctant to have their cameras on. I thought everybody during the lockdown would be wanting to see each other's faces, and they just didn't. And when Clubhouse came along, I was like, "Oh, I get this. This is really smart." It's social. Zoom should have been social. You should have been able to search for different Zoom things. They were so worried about, because they were so corporate.
Well, they're two different kinds of tools, right? Zoom is for you to have a purposeful meeting with people that you want to connect with. You have something specific to talk about. I guess people can't really rifle through Zoom to see and bust in on meetings they're not invited to, because that's what it was. It was like a meeting tool, like a business tool. Where
but they could have made it kind of like Eventbrite and found events that wanted to be public, be searchable, and made it more social. That would have made
you're 100% right, and it still has that ability to do it because it has a unique thing where they have the TV screen, where Clubhouse is just a picture of you.
Yeah, but I don't think people my experience, people don't want to be on camera. And obviously, I mean, Clubhouse is just taking off like crazy. Did you hear that Justin Bieber had his welcome party on Tuesday on Clubhouse?
Oh, he had a welcome to Clubhouse party?
Yeah, there was like 9,000 people in there.
That is crazy. Well, these people have following, so it's easy for them, right? But
they're coming on, and they're beautiful, and you would think they would want the camera on, but Dane Cook, you know who Dane Cook?
Of course.
Dane Cook he goes on randomly. He's on all the time, and you can go into a Dane Cook room, and maybe there's 150 people in there, and you can talk to Dane Cook and get on his stage.
There you go. Justin Bieber's manager is an investor in Clubhouse.
Nice. Okay.
Funny. Well, that kind of shows, but it sure took him a long time to get on, because it's really been popping now for at least the past half a year, if not longer. When did you get? How long have you been on it?
I got on the 2 days after Christmas, and I feel like a bunch of people got on. I know that the sharks from Shark Tank got on between Christmas and New Year's Eve. And then a whole bunch of people got on in January.
Yeah, the beginning of the year is when it really started popping off. Now everybody seems to have an invitation. That was a hard thing in the beginning, to get an invitation, because you need an invitation to join Clubhouse. It's not, you can't just go on there and sign up like you can for other social, but invitations aren't that hard to get now. Everybody seems to be on
They
it.
never were. It was so easy to come in through the back door, just like concerts. You can get in the back door if you just know what you're doing, you know. Right now, I have 68 invites, and I don't have anyone to give them to.
Right.
You know, maybe when Android comes online, there's going to be another wave.
Right, because that's just Apple right now, right?
Yeah, Android's going to come online in probably 3 weeks.
And it's not on a computer either. It's just on your.
They're not going to do web-based. The beauty of Clubhouse is that you can be brushing your teeth, you can be fixing dinner, you can be making coffee. I painted my kitchen the first week I was on Clubhouse.
How often are you going on?
So the first 3 weeks, I was on 90 hours a week.
Whoa.
And I was going into rooms mostly that people that had been on Clubhouse for, you know, the beginning folks, just learning how to navigate Clubhouse. And then I started going into moderator rooms where I learned to be a moderator. But I saw right away, I mean, I was all in. And then John from Shark Tank came in, I want to say, it was the week between Christmas and New Year's. And he said, yeah, he had just gotten in. It was his welcome room. And he said, yeah, this is pretty cool. It seems interesting. I'm going to spend a couple of days in here and see what's up. And a day later, he and his executive team had a room. And it was Sunday night. And they were like, we're going to talk about public speaking. And so that's, you know, when you go in a room that's about public speaking, you expect them to talk about public speaking. So they talked about it a little bit, but Damien started drinking and he got really, really, really drunk. And it was hysterical. He's like, we're only going to be in here for an hour. No, they were in there for 4 hours and he was hammered. But because of it, I met the guy that books the entrepreneurs on the shows, and he's agreed to do a panel for me at the in-person State of Cannabis. And that's the beauty of Clubhouse, is that you could get into Justin Bieber's, well, not Justin Bieber, but you can get into Dane Cook's room. You can, you know, it's LinkedIn networking, in-person networking on steroids.
Well, you mentioned the in-person State of Cannabis event. When are in-person cannabis events coming on board? I know last week in Atlanta, they had a big cannabis event. I'm not sure if you know this, but they had an in-person cannabis event in Atlanta last week.
Was it cannabis or CBD?
I don't know. Hold on. I'm going to have to look it up now.
I'm not sure, but I'm going to an Emerald Cup event next in a week and a half, which I'm excited about in LA.
Where's that?
It's at some cool spot in LA.
Oh, really? I want to go.
You want me to get you in?
Please. What's the date on it?
The 11th.
Oh, well, I'm around.
I will get you in.
I'd love to go.
I'm writing a note to myself.
Good, because one thing I love doing is smoking. Oh, look at that, the Emerald Cup. I didn't even know they had an LA Emerald Cup. Is that a thing, a recent thing?
No, Tim's been trying to come to LA. I've been telling him for 6 years that Long Beach is the place to be, and he finally listened to me, and he's been working on Long Beach, not as long as I have, but he's been working on Long Beach for a while. But they will be. They're bringing the cup next spring. The Emerald Cup will be in Long Beach. And
then they have their event. I believe it's in December. That
December event is no longer going to be the event. The event is going to be probably in March. And you know, all of the growers gave Tim a hard time. This is the year 17 for the Emerald Cup. And they gave him a hard time about moving to Santa Rosa, and they gave him a hard time about doing it second weekend of December. But he's, you know, I always trusted him. He's a visionary, and the reason that they weren't happy was because they weren't able to cure their buds properly. they didn't feel like they were being properly judged, because, you know, a big part of having a good cannabis flower is how you cure it. And they harvested, let's say, you know, October. They had a couple of weeks to cure it before they had to get it in the hands of the judges, because they spend a month judging.
Oh, before the event actually happens.
Their judging process is, I mean, it's legit. If you get
what is this going to look like as one of our first early cannabis events in less than 2 weeks? You're saying 10 days here, a capacity? I mean, invitation only?
Yeah, no, it's just a few friends. It's just a very intimate little tiny 150 people gathering.
Gotcha. It's a beautiful. Well, at least something's starting to bubble up and things are starting to happen. How about for large scale events? When are we looking forward to that coming back? I guess later in the summer and early fall.
I was trying to find it. Something's wrong with my brain or my computer. I'm not sure which. Maybe both. But an email came out from the mayor of Long Beach last night, and outdoor events are back in Long Beach. Not quite full capacity yet, but yeah, they're coming back. So
didn't they just schedule the Grand Prix or something like that? I think I was talking about.
Yeah, the Grand Prix was scheduled about 4 weeks ago, and they historically get 200,000 people.
Wow.
At that event.
I know, it's a lot of people. It's a big one.
I'm just worried that we're doing it, you know, maybe too soon, that, you know, I just don't want to go back to where we were.
Well, they're saying Los Angeles and herd immunity by July. I mean, and everybody that, as of now, everybody 50 and above can have a shot. And as of April 15th, everybody 16 and above can have a shot.
Really?
So yes, that's where we are right now. So they plan on having everybody that wants a vaccination to have one by May.
The problem is not everybody wants a vaccination. In fact, lots of people don't.
We're still going to hit herd immunity even without it. And the people that don't have vaccinations are going to have to worry about getting it and possibly getting sick. You know, you can't make everybody get a vaccination. So I think what they're trying to do is to try to get 80% or 75% of people that have either had the vaccine or had the vaccination.
Well, so for me, what I'm doing for the in-person State of Cannabis, I'm still looking for my venue because of the Grand Prix. I'm having a hard time. I typically do the State of Cannabis the second or third week of September. September is going to be weird. September is going to be so crowded. How many festivals do you know that are going to be in September?
Well, like we were talking about on the State of Cannabis last Thursday when we were together, and we had the attorney on, and he said he was working on no less than 25 festivals for the month of September. And I think it's probably because that was just the ones he's working on.
Yeah, one attorney.
Right, one attorney. So there has to be more than that. I would think you're looking at about 35 to 40 festivals in that time. That's 4 a week. Oh, wait, no, it is. It's 10 a weekend.
That's insane. And those are major festivals.
Well, not everybody thinks major. Like Bonnaroo is a big festival because they have 60,000 people. Life is Beautiful is a big festival. They have 60,000 people. Electric Zoo, also in the first weekend of September, has 60,000 people. North Coast Festival, probably about 30. So they're all substantial. There's a lot of smaller ones mixed in there too that have punted or moved from the summer months into the fall because it's more likely that that's going to happen. So I think the fall is going to be incredibly busy. We're all going to be at it full steam ahead. I mean, you see these numbers, you see the way they're changing and dropping, and you see the way, I mean, not the variance notwithstanding, and your variant places like Florida, I read the numbers are up, and in Michigan, they're up right now with this variant strains. I mean, there's so much shit that's being thrown at us at all times. It's really hard to wrap our heads about what the reality is. Yeah,
it's hard to make plans. So if I do get a venue, when I want it, my plan is to say, okay, here to the sponsors and the attendees, here is what the event looks like. And it's going to be very safe. And as time goes by, if everything's cool, then I can say, oh, and guess what? We also get to do this. And then, you know, things go well. Oh, and we also get to do this. And so the event can get bigger and bigger instead of saying, oh, we're going to do 200,000 people and everything's good and nobody has to wear a mask. And then we have to go back to this.
Right. Yes, I think things are gonna start a lot smaller. So one of your things that we talked about, I remember a couple years ago, was creating a real green room, because we always talk about the green room backstage, but it's not really a green room, but making it a real green room where people would go before a show and have a selection of cannabis and all these kinds of things. I still think it's a brilliant idea, and I think it's something we should work on coming up when these shows come back, because cannabis is more and more accepted. Outside Lands last year in 2019 had the grassland set up where people could actually buy products, in a safe environment and use them there too. So the whole way, our whole approach towards cannabis use is changing, and also getting it in the hands of the celebrities so they can talk about the brands and get them out to the people.
Yeah, I mean that, Jeff, really, thank you. You just brought like my wish in life. If I could have my wish in life, I've talked to enough artists and celebrities and keynote speaker types of people. I've taken care of them in my green room, and I've always had people say your green room is the best green room ever. That's what I would do. That would be my mission, is to be the green room grandma, because I've got aspirin, I've got alcohol, I've got cannabis, I've got protein, I've got, everything, because I see, and that's one of the reasons I became a public speaker, because I see these people in green rooms and I see what they're going through. Everybody goes through something before they go on stage, and I have a knack for seeing what they need and giving it to them. And I've had so many artists say, you should see the green room at Coachella. It's just so bad. We have to walk all the way over here, and they don't have anything. The green room is a special place, and if you could somehow, I understand it's impossible, but it's so magical when you're taking care of these people that are about to go on stage, the conversations and the feelings and the energy that's in the green room. There is nothing like it. It is so magical.
And also watching the look on their face when you put some kind of really crazy new pipe or some kind of crazy device.
Show them something and they feel great. And
yeah, well, you've done a great job, Susan, keeping everybody educated and working on keeping the cannabis in the forefront minds of everybody involved. I can't wait till we're back in Indio doing our thing, and looking forward to seeing it everywhere. I think that we need to have the green rooms everywhere, grasslands everywhere, and cannabis everywhere.
Yes, cannabis.
And I know you agree. Let me fly up your website, stateofcannabis.org, and also all over Instagram and Clubhouse. Susan Soares, thank you so much for coming on 420 Live. Is there anything you want to tell the folks out there before I let you go?
There's only one thing I always want to make sure everybody understands. I love cannabis. I hope you love cannabis too. And if there's anything I can do to help you enjoy cannabis more, let me know.
Great. And I look forward to our date on the 11th.
Thank you so much. Yay.
Have a great day. Thanks for coming on the show. There you go, Susan. What a wonderful person. Just the biggest heart, and really does an amazing job in keeping cannabis to the people that can really help get the word out. So our entertainers and everybody, thank you. And, I have the most interesting new sponsor here at 420 Live. I did bring this out yesterday, but I got my nice Manscaped bag here. You Manscaped, you want to keep your stuff clean. And Manscaping has come up with this beautiful little razor. Let's look at that. It has a light on it, so you can see what you're doing down there. And a trimmer that will not snag and cut you up. So you guys out there, let's face it. This is crazy. Let's face it. You need to keep the bush trim. And, they have some very cool things that come with it. They have the ball toner. These guys are really funny. The ball toner, you want to keep your balls toned. And let's see, the ball deodorant. Very important. And I think there's one more here. Is there this bag of tricks? No, that's it. The ball deodorant. Manscaped.com. And you know what? If you go to manscaped.com and use the 420 Live code, you get 20% off on your razor and free shipping. Do it now. Keep your stuff nice and tight and clean. And Jeff Kravitz for Manscaped. Manscaped. Let me get it right. Oh, wait, that's State of Cannabis. Manscaped.com. There you go. 20% off. And you're right, Kelly. I saw your comment there. You got one for Matt for Christmas. And there you go. Now, Jeff Kravitz working on the personal grooming supplies for keeping yourself nice and tidy. Let's face it, we're going to get back to this. And you're going to have to go out dating again. You're going to want, to be presentable. I can't even. Dub Sly, you need an invite to Clubhouse. You can hit me up, hit Susan up. Thank you. And thank you for tuning in. And yes, amazing woman, amazing guest. And I appreciate you guys for tuning in today. And thanks for coming on 420 Live. Tomorrow, I am taking the day off. I got some business to handle. It's Good Friday. Great Friday. Amazing Friday. Coming into Easter holiday weekend. So everybody enjoy your holiday weekend coming up. Your time with your family. Getting back with the older relatives in our lives now that we're all safely got the vaccination and moving into the next phase, the reuniting, the getting back, the seeing all the old friends you miss in the year. I'm sure there's a lot of people you don't want to see too after the year. You're like, you know what? Don't really need to see them again. But then we have all the people we missed and all the people we love. So you want to get on it. Peace, love, and happiness to everybody out there. Big hug from Jeff Kravitz to you. Signing off. We will see you after the amazing weekend on Monday. Next week I am working on shows, but I already talked to Clem Burke. He's the drummer for Blondie. Clem's going to come on Tuesday. I'm working on it. I've got this. I'm working on it. Everybody, have a great day. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you next week. Jeff Kravitz.